This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Hello and welcome back. Melanie McGhee joining us here again today, our psychotherapist, writer, founder of Acceptance and Integration Training, and also the Alliance for Integrated Awareness. She joins us again live today. We're going to get into a little bit more about what this all means, how she's helping you and all those out there, and of course, change and transformation, which you can achieve. And we have a very special guest today joining us as well, her friend and, of course, AAIT practitioner. Jeanette Isaacson joining us, who's also a therapist. So let me start off by saying welcome to you both today. How's it going?
Thank you so much. It's going really well.
Thank
Great.
you.
Well,
Nice to be
pleasure to
here.
have you back. Melanie, lead the way. If you don't mind, for new timers out there, just tell us a little bit about the work you do, and then we'll bring Jeanette in, and then we'll get into today's topics. Thank you.
Yeah, so I developed this model of care, acceptance and integration training in part in homage to my teachers, who I had the great good fortune of studying with master teachers around the world. And it's a synthesis of what I've learned from them and forwarding their work in the world to make mental health care and well-being available, accessible, rapid, efficient, durable. So this model creates lasting change in very little time for our clients and ourselves.
Beautiful. Thank you. And you've been doing this for quite many years. Just share a little bit of the background overall for people who are not familiar with, what we're talking about and going to be just talking about today.
Yeah, so the background on the model is, and on me, is that I started out in therapy, like many social workers, coming from a family that maybe put the fun in dysfunction. So I learned to really reach out and find teachers who could forward my understanding and recognize that as what I was learning from them created more durable change that lasted longer and was much more efficient. We don't have the time and luxury for long excavations into the past anymore. People just don't have that of time available. And these tools that we use in acceptance and integration training, we can pretty reliably address whatever comes in the door for us. And that's tremendously valuable as a healing arts professional, to know that you can help the person who's showing up in front of you.
Beautiful. And why don't you introduce Jeanette here for us? Tell us a little bit about her, and then we'll have her speak too, of course.
Yeah, so Jeanette is a therapist and coach based out of Washington State, and is in our AAIT community, and has gone through training and continues to get training. She's very involved in our community, and even is involved in supporting and enrolling therapists and coaches and spiritual healers who may want to know more about AAIT. And that's the go-to person to talk to, because she understands this model and is moving forward and getting tremendous change in her clients. I get weekly texts from Jeanette: "You're not going to believe this. Check out what just happened." And these are the kind of stories that therapists share daily about the work they're seeing in their offices. And Jeanette is just a prime example of that. And we're so happy that you're in the community with us, Jeanette.
Thank you, Melanie. It's been amazing to train with you. I've been very blessed to be here. And I just want to share a little bit about the patient population. I work for a mental health agency, and I'm seeing all kinds of things that people can relate to. I see people who've had childhood trauma that has not been resolved, and it's showing up and playing out as adults. I see people coming in with loss of spouse, chronic depression, disabling depression, high anxiety. I see teachers that are burned out, people in the tech industry that are burned out, young people trying to launch their lives but have severe anxiety as they're trying to do it. I have a lot of people who've lost their jobs or need support in changing jobs. I have students, I have young people with OCD and old people with obsessive compulsive disorders. Overall, I'm seeing a lot of exhaustion, a lot of stress, I see very chronic depression that they have not been able to treat until they start doing some AAI tools. I even had one client say that he was resistant to talk therapy, but yet in the first session, using a protocol that Melanie developed called the Universal Process, he had a positive change on the first
Wow.
AAIT session. I'm also seeing people, we do measures on all clients that come in for their anxiety and depression scores. We do what's called a GAD-7 and a PHQ-9, and people are coming in experiencing depression and anxiety regularly, 3 to 5 times a week. They're having experiences with it. And what I'm seeing across the board, I'll just share briefly. In 2 months of therapy, I had a 25-year-old go from a GAD and PHQ score from 11 and 12 down to 5 and 2. I had a 40-year-old who lost their spouse go from 15 and 15 on both
Wow.
scores down to a 6 and an 8. This is in 2 months' time. I had another person who was 38 that went from a 12 and an 18 down to a 1 and a 4. I had a suicidal client who came in and they went from a 13 and a 17 down to 0 and 0 in 2 months' time. I even had one person on one session who's a healthcare provider. She went from a 9 and a 7 down to a 4 and a 0 in one session. So I'm seeing really, really quick results. People are finding relief. And what happens once they experience that relief? Change is possible. They know they can do it. When they get relief right away, they can move into change. Their confidence starts growing. They're willing to do processes. We do, with the AAIT, we process emotions, feelings, thoughts, and images, and they process those and they get immediate relief, and then they want to come back. They want to do more, and they are lowering their depression and anxiety scores really quickly. So that was my main thing I wanted to share. And the training that Melanie does is phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I can tell you, I've been taking every class I can get into and learning so much. And I apply it immediately in my clients. I'm even applying the techniques on their very first session. I do their initial assessment and I go right into teaching them tools that they can walk away with and that they can have relief in their day-to-day life and then they come back. What I notice most is people have less reactions. They're not getting upset as much. They're calmer. They can go longer periods of time before they have a big reaction to things. It's because they start feeling better. They're
Yeah.
getting actual release.
Thank you, Jeanette. I just want to clarify for people who may not know these scores that she's talking about, PHQ-9 and GAD-7. These are available to therapists to help us measure anxiety and depression. And it goes up, I think, to 21 score. 21 is the
Yeah.
highest. And so to see this kind of rapid change is quite unusual. The other thing I wanted to clarify is that the process that she mentioned, the universal process, that was actually developed by one of my teachers, Rod Slavinsky. So I wanted to make sure to clarify that too.
Thank you. All right. And for today, where did you want to start?
I think we can talk about some of the applications both in the therapy world and maybe share some specific client stories and answer any questions that you may have, Jill. That this modality of care is applicable in so many different areas. Teachers use it, therapists use it,
No.
spiritual counselors use it. One of the things that I could talk about today a little bit, and Jeanette can share her experience with individual clients. I've been facilitating groups and taught group psychotherapy and group facilitation for many, many years, and I have ongoing groups. And two of these groups
Yeah.
are my groups now are all AAIT groups, and most of them are groups with other therapists and other coaches or spiritual directors. Those are the people who are in my groups. It wasn't always that way. I used to see people I'd have a group of people who were journeying with depression or anxiety or grief, like Jeanette mentioned. And I was thinking about that this week and how, we are in a time where a sense of belonging is really important to us. And as human beings, and there's an urge and a movement towards more community, especially post-COVID, to have opportunities to really be in community. And a lot of us facilitate groups, and AAIT is a really useful modality in group. This group of therapists, they a couple of weeks ago, they did a piece of work. We would call it a piece of work on not being specific about what they needed and wanted in
Hmm.
their relationships. It's a pretty common, professional hazard, is that we wouldn't necessarily be that conscious about what we need and want. And we would all, it's all about giving and helping others. So, but that's not lasting for us as therapists. It will set us back. So this group, they did some work on the good and the bad of asking for what they wanted and being specific for that. And the next week, they all came back and reported, yeah, they were much more tuned in and much clearer about asking for what they wanted and needed. And then what they all noticed is that they tended to feel dismissive around paying attention to it. It's like it really had to get to a pretty high level before they would pay attention to what is that want or need. So the next week, we did some work on dismissing myself and paying attention to what I want and need. And the next week, they all came back and reported how they weren't dismissing themselves. They were being much more authentic and vulnerable in their friendships and relationships. And they all felt more full, less drained, less exhausted, less bound up in the pain of what comes through our door every day. And so it's a really useful tool to use in group, and it's useful to use with um, to help us take care of ourselves, all of us, not just therapists.
Beautiful. All right. Did you want to chime in on that?
I never get tired of hearing Melanie talk about this.
Aw,
Um, it had profound change on me personally as well as I was going through the training. So even my own personal journey benefited from going through this. I'll share a couple of client stories. I have a young person who has obsessive compulsive disorder to the point where he was just having panic attacks all the time. And I was able to help him process his feelings, his thoughts. And we started just on even on the first session, and we did an exercise about what's good about this, what's bad about it. And we were able to get him relief on the first exercise.
mm,
He then used the tool on his own. And by the time he saw me on the second one, he was already experiencing some relief on his own. And then I was able to introduce more tools to him, and he's doing much, much better. His relief, I like to say it's relief of suffering. He was truly suffering, and his relief of suffering was amazing. I especially like it with a client who has depression. Depression and grief, I think, are hard to lift. They often have been with people for a really long time for very good reasons. But using these tools is it allows the energy to shift. They feel some relief, and they'll even report by the second or third visit, I went out and saw friends. I started doing more activities. Oh, I picked up a project I haven't done in 3 years. I'm
aw,
now all of a sudden starting to do this project. And then we keep processing and we keep relieving the emotions and the thoughts, the images, and the body sensations. A lot of this stuff I think is very stuck in people's bodies, and really getting them to release it, even on a cellular level. Really, that somatic release is just so freeing. And like I said before, people will do change once they feel relief. I think it's much harder to make a change when the relief isn't there. You want that relief, but it isn't there. But when you actually feel better, you can make a change. And that's what these tools do. And we can teach them to the clients and they can work on it, throughout the day. And I'm just seeing so many people that feel exhaustion and feel burnout. I have quite a few people that are teachers and they just feel completely burned out. They want to do a great job and their hearts are in it,
yeah.
but they feel really burned out. So we use a protocol. The one that I use is one called Paraday, and it helps relieve that burnout feeling. And they feel refreshed and they notice a difference when they go back to work. So it again brings them hope and they feel better and they use the tools on their own. So it's just really amazing. I feel like I'm getting to watch little miracles every day with what people are doing.
Got it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
I
that.
want to piggyback on something that Jeanette said because I think it's really important. There's two things. One is that when Jeanette's saying they're able to use this on their own, this approach really does empower us as practitioners and our clients to be able to address the stressors that come up in daily life so it just doesn't accumulate. It just doesn't accumulate because we're able to mitigate the like Jeanette said, the suffering that goes along with just living life and mitigate the stressors of that by processing this. And this word processing has been in the vernacular, the common vernacular for therapists and other healing arts professionals for decades. And as a younger therapist, I've been at it for over 40 years now, but as a younger therapist, I didn't really know what does that actually mean to
Yeah.
process. In traditional therapy, you're just sitting talking about it, and that's supposed to process it somehow. But it doesn't necessarily provide the relief that Jeanette was mentioning. And what we mean when we use the word processing is we're actually taking an experience that a client has and helping them metabolize the energy associated with that experience, the emotional energy, the thoughts, the body sensations, and really neutralize what's gotten activated. So they metabolize all of that through acceptance and then neutralize it through integration. And that liberates them to another viewpoint, a higher and different perspective on the problem that they had even 5 minutes ago.
Wow. Impressive
I,
work. And I know you've taught me a lot about this. I'm learning, and I hope our listeners and viewers are too. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
well, I was just gonna share on that. I had a young woman come in who had a hostile takeover of her company she worked at and lost her job, and she hadn't been able to get another job. She'd
Hmm.
been trying for almost 2 years and interviewing, and that can be rough to be doing that. But we did some work around it. We did some AAIT, and she went back out, and she felt different. She
Wow.
felt more free, and she got a job within 2 weeks of the first session. And she's doing much better. Her anxiety and depression lowered down, and she's just doing much better. So I see change. People, when they feel better, are willing to get out there and do that job interview and to try to get better, to try to improve their lives. So it's really impressive. I've also been impressed with what Melanie has taught us in trauma relief, people that have had trauma, because I think in general that's been harder to treat as a therapist. And there are some protocols and treatment that are really effective with trauma. I don't know if Melanie, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Hmm.
Sure, yeah. So there are approaches to trauma where I think we've talked a bit before about how trauma often in more traditional approaches or what's currently available, there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. There's a lot of almost tiptoeing around it. Like we want to be really, really careful. And we actually don't take that approach with the AIT because we know that whatever gets triggered when we're working on the trauma, we have ways of getting people back to reassociate when they've been dissociated so they can't work on the trauma if they're dissociated. We have ways of helping them emotionally regulate when the trauma gets too overwhelming. And generally in 1 to 3 sessions, we're done. Now, this is not the same, like if we're talking about complex and multiple episodes of trauma, but
Hmm.
if we're talking about a single episode of trauma, awful things that happen to people, being shot, witnessing being shot, being raped, witnessing, we have awful things that happen to people. And within 1 to 3 sessions, it's not like they forget or we forget these things happened. It's more like the memory is reconsolidated and put in a different place in the brain. So we still have the memory,
Yeah.
but there's no longer any pain associated with that memory
Wow.
after 1 to 3 sessions.
And I'll
That.
also share that I give my clients homework, and their homework is to go out and track any triggers. What is triggering them? I want to know every little reaction, every little trigger, because that's a hint as to, what we need to treat for and what we need to go after. And like Melanie said, we're not afraid to go after that grief, to go after that loss and let them cry and let them feel because we know that they'll get that relief. And they know as they work with us, they trust us more and we build that relationship with them and they know that they're going to feel better at the end of every session. And so they're willing to feel that. They're willing to process it to get that relief. And I also want to say that the protocols and what Melanie has taught us as therapists is they kind of become so used to their chronic issues that that's who they think they are. But
Ah,
once they start processing all of this and once they start really releasing it, they come back to their true selves. They feel
yeah,
peace, they feel peace again. They feel calm again. They feel relaxed in their bodies again. And they like that. They love that. And they want to come back to that. And so every time I point out, notice how relaxed you are now. Notice how you feel now. And they then know it's possible. I can live a life that feels good and peaceful and that I'm not stuck in this other energies.
beautiful. Thank you so much. Also, just want to remind everyone who we're talking to. I don't think we've established it in quite some time, but Melanie McGhee, thank you so much for being here. And of course, Jeanette Isaacson, if you are tuning in, excited that you're here talking and learning, maybe for the first time, all about AAIT and of course, all the benefits. Great to have you both with us, ladies. And also, just to keep on track, just want to make sure we're still covering everything that's important for you today, right? Obviously these client stories really shed, I think, a lot of light on the benefit of it. And, it's great to hear the befores and after, and especially that young person with the OCD. Was it hard to learn AAIT? Just curious if you don't mind sharing that one.
No, Melanie's courses are really well developed, and you take each aspect of it. You break it down, and then you practice. We practice in training, so we have labs and we practice, and then we're given homework in Melanie's training where we have to work with each other and we have to practice and do this. And we're given a skills lab. So I go back to it all the time. I call it my new best friend. I'm in the skills lab all the time, rehearsing and practicing. And just the other day, I wanted to use a protocol on someone that had very severe depression. And so I went to the skills lab and I listened to Melanie talk about it and I practiced. And then when I went to the client session, it was just beautiful. And he had relief and it was amazing. It had changed things for him. And so her training, I think, is top notch. So I have really valued from it. It's very advanced training. When she talks about the fact that she went and found the best teachers to learn from, she found the best teachers to learn from, and she's sharing all of that in the training. It's like a gift to be able to sit there and learn how to do these and be able to then, I was turning it around and using it on clients right away.
Yeah.
And now in my practice, I did therapy for a long time before I learned AAIT. And now in my practice, I bring it into the first session. I do the initial assessment and I bring it in right away because I know they're going to get relief right away. So I don't even hesitate. I just immediately start using it. It's been such a valuable tool. It's been amazing.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Jeanette, how do you think it's impacted the trajectory of your caseload and the
Oh,
Mm,
your
it's
business?
I'm discharging people, which is amazing. So what I do is I work with them usually weekly until they feel like they have essentially they don't have depression anymore, they don't have anxiety anymore. And then we start going to just twice a month, and then we go to once a month, and I start discharging people. So I'm bringing in new people all the time because they're getting better. They're getting better. And people stay. I don't have people that leave because they're not happy. They stay because they're getting relief, but I'm actually discharging them because they're actually improving. So I love that.
And
I
you're
love
getting
that.
enough girls with all the discharge. I mean, one of the things that
Yeah.
therapists are talking about is with the economics right now that caseloads are going down, what are you noticing in terms of your being full or not full, even as you discharge people?
No, I'm full and they keep asking me to take more. And like my client that had OCD, his whole group, that his hospital-based group of physicians are now sending people to get relief as well. So it's just really helping. People are noticing the change and they're sharing their stories and coming in. I had a client that came in and he was going through, a very difficult divorce and he was having trouble with his job. And we started working with AAIT and he had a lot of childhood trauma that he had not dealt with. And he was in his 40s and he had just not dealt with it. And so we did some processing on that. He had a father that died and we did some processing around that and he started feeling better. He was able to
Aw,
accept his divorce easily. I wouldn't say easily, but much
better.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then move forward. Yeah. And he also changed jobs. He got a new job, better job. Yeah. He's doing much better. And he is being discharged now. So he's doing well. Yeah.
Thank
Well, success stories like these, I know that Melanie, you clearly, makes you both very happy, right? That you're able to help so many people with this. We do have to sum it up in our last 2.5 minutes together. Would you mind helping us do that?
Sure. I'm sorry, I'm a little.
Aw.
So I'm just deeply touched actually with Jeanette's stories because I know that Jeanette, you are one of hundreds of therapists making a real difference for people. And this is a time when we need this and to be able to help people uncover and get themselves free of the narrative, all the ideas of who we think we are and land in who we really are, because that's when we can shine as a global community of humanity.
And I think it's just amazing to help people have change quickly
Yeah.
and that it's sustainable. They actually keep that change. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
just,
durable.
yeah.
I think the other thing I would like to sum up is if there's a healing arts practitioner who's listening and they're wondering if maybe their clients are ready for this kind of approach, they can go to our website and there's a little quiz that will help you determine, are your clients ready for AAIT? So they can find that at learnaait.com.
Beautiful.
And I highly recommend the training. It's amazing. I used it right after I got it, and it's been making a big difference.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And tell us how we can contact both of you, if you don't mind.
Jeanette?
You can reach me through AAIT. I help with the enrollment of their courses now. I'm volunteering to help them get the word out so that we can help alleviate suffering everywhere. So you can just reach out through the website and get me. And I think Melanie too.
Yeah, you can, for either of us, you can email info@learnaait.com and that'll make its way to us. So we'd really be happy to answer any questions that people have about what we're doing, about the Alliance for Integrated Awareness and the good work of the healing arts professionals in our communities.
Perfect. Thank you both so much for being here, for joining us, and thank you for your time. Very informative, as always, and pleasure to meet you as well. Enjoy the rest of the day, ladies, and to all of our listeners and viewers, stay tuned. We'll be right back with more after the break.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.